Crowdfunding is a well-known strategy for raising money for nonprofit projects, social impact projects, and all sorts of projects. And Kickstarter is arguably one of the most well-known crowdfunding platforms there are out there. But some, like entrepreneur.com, say that less than 40% of crowdfunding projects get funded on these sites. So if you are planning to use a crowdfunding site like Kickstarter for your nonprofit fundraising or just raising money for any kind of project, how can you make it a success? That is what we're going to talk about in this video, and we're going to do it with the help of a friend of mine. But before we get to that, I just want to welcome you back to my channel. Thanks so much for stopping by. My name is Amber Melanie Smith, and I am a nonprofit founder and executive director of the nonprofit that I started. And I love making these videos here on YouTube to help folks who are starting a social impact venture or nonprofit organization figure out how to get started. And fundraising is definitely a part of that. I hope that you find this video helpful. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. And as I've mentioned in some past videos, if you're looking for a little bit more help and guidance on starting a nonprofit, for example, you can check out my website, foundertofulltime.com, where I've got some great online trainings all about that. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to someone. Hello, Danae.
Hi, Amber.
How are you doing today?
I'm so excited. How are you?
I'm great, and I'm really excited to share your story with the folks at YouTube.
Yes, I'm excited to. Hopefully this helps for people.
I think it will be. So I'm very excited to introduce you to my friend, Danae. Danae has a company, Aspiring Co., that recently completed a successful Kickstarter project, and it just blew my mind watching watching the money come in and her success. So I'm just really excited to have her share her story and tell you a little bit about how this happened and how we made it work. So
yes,
who are you?
Lots of insights.
Share more about yourself and what was your project?
Sure. So my project is a coffee table book, and it's filled with interviews with women and non-binary folks, just like sharing their experiences and really just showcasing different possibility models so that we don't get to see often.
Yeah.
And Aspiring Co. is all about just like inspiring people. So that is kind of like my why, and it's, you know, pretty important to me, I guess. So yeah, the Kickstarter project was to fund the book, and I was really excited about it, but printing a book is so expensive, and there's so many things that people just don't realize you have to pay for. So it's just like, I had to set my goal as something that I felt like I could achieve, and also something that felt realistic given the fact that it was not just me. It's like a project with like 75 other people. So
wow.
In mind, like keeping that in mind when setting my goal, that like, you know, this is going to be my network and then also all of their networks, hopefully. So that was something that I had to really be mindful of with goal setting. So
Danae, the folks who are watching my channel, I call them change makers.
Oh,
I know, but it's true. I am always getting comments and hearing from people who are just out there trying to change the world in some way and make a difference, and I know that that is you too. So can you share just a little bit more about how you expect your successfully funded book to make an impact for people?
I hope that it inspires people to see like different options for like what they can do to be happy in their lives and just like finding fulfillment. And a lot of the folks that I'm interviewing are people that have like impact and purpose driven work. Right. So I think just showcasing that, and then like hopefully inspiring other people to find something that speaks to them in the same way.
Okay, so when nonprofits or even, you know, social enterprise organizations or businesses or startups or even solopreneurs are raising money for a project, they have a lot of options, a lot of crowdfunding sites out there. So talk to me a little bit about why you landed on Kickstarter.
I think Kickstarter it just seems more like official to me than some of the other options. I mean, there are tons of other options that people can go with, but I feel like Kickstarter is just like more popular, and like when you say crowdfunding, you know, people automatically think of Kickstarter, at least for me. So I was like, that's the route I'm gonna take. But also my publisher had a relationship with the people at Kickstarter in the publishing department. So I was like, okay, well, we're going to use that. So I went with them for that reason mostly.
Yeah. Okay, so a little bit about the logistics of using a crowdfunding site to raise money for your project, in this case specifically Kickstarter. How does it work? How do you even get set up? What are the rules you have to follow?
Oh, so many rules. Okay, so first off, you have to apply. So you have to fill out all of the content. Like, you basically build your project page and you have to submit it. And I think they recommend you submit it between like maybe 3 to 5 days before you plan to actually launch.
Okay.
But it doesn't launch until you get approved, and then you physically go in and click launch. So then it goes live.
They have to approve you.
Yeah, they have to approve.
Okay.
Kickstarter things. So once you're approved, you go in and you click launch, and from that time, let's go back, I guess. So you set, like, during that stage, you set like whatever your goal is going to be. And I think it will also like recommend like a goal. So mine, I typed in like 20,000, and then I come back and it had changed it to like 16. I was like, that's not what I said. Back.
Not your word.
Yes, I was like, that's not what I said. So I had to go back and fix that. So it does try to like kind of help you along the way. So when they accept your project, you go in and you can set the time frame that you want to raise it in. So, and once you set it, you can't, and like once you set it and then once you hit launch, you can't change it. So that's
there's no editing after.
Yeah, after. Okay. So there's certain things that you can submit without having it like fully like fleshed out. Like, I think when it comes to like some of the description stuff, you can still edit that. And you can make like updates, but you can't change. I don't think you can change your goal, and you can't change the time frame that you want to raise it in. So I picked 30 days because it has a note on the site that that's like the most successful amount of time. But also 30 days of crowdfunding is a lot. And people tell you that and you're like, no, it'll be fine. It will be fine, but it's a lot more than what you would anticipate.
What's the max amount you can choose?
I think 60 days was the max.
Okay.
There's no way I would do that because it's so taxing.
What do you mean, like emotionally taxing?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Very taxing.
I can see that. Yeah, we'll have you say more about that later.
Yes. I can definitely. So many times I was like, I can't do this. I'm done. But yes.
Right. Okay. So that means that if you got like 30 days to make this happen, we're talking, in your case, $20,000, which to a lot of people is quite a lot of money.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about like how you prepared for that before you even launched. Like, what did you put in place to have a high level of confidence that this was going to work out?
Okay, so if we're being fully honest, I feel like over the past year, I've been doing a lot of just like mindset work just to make sure that I can remove like any limited beliefs that I have.
Okay.
So I feel like that was really important because, as I mentioned, it was very taxing. Literally halfway through, I was like, I'm done. I'm tapping out. I cannot do this. So yeah, I think just being really, just really telling yourself that the money is out there. It's just a matter of tapping into the right source for it. So I think that was the kind of thing that just kept me going. I was like, okay, the money, it exists out there in the world. There's somebody who has this and could be very easily like fund the whole project.
We talk about that.
That did not happen, but yes, in my mind, I just had to keep reminding myself that hey, that's a possibility.
Yeah, with nonprofit fundraising, it's a similar concept. Like, if you know your audience, and I've talked about this in past videos, it's just about knowing your audience. Who's going to be the type of person attracted to your mission and your cause. That reminds me of what you were saying about knowing the money's out there. It's just a matter of tapping into the right networks and people, etc.
Definitely. And so I think knowing that my project was not just me, it was like, 75 people were also a part of it. I made graphics for everyone that we could share and stuff like that. So that was really helpful for me. And just like having a plan of like, okay, I guess before we get into the actual plan for like once we launch, I would say before you're just spending time just like, I spent so much time just like making sure everything was like spell checked and like laid out nicely in my project details. And then after I finished that, I was just like, okay, well, I'm exhausted. I'm like over this thing. So now it's time for me to hit launch. And I already am like, okay, I would like to put this away. And you can't do that. Like, that's when the time really starts clicking. So I think really the whole, like, just getting yourself prepared, getting everything done, and then having like your project ready to launch, and then having a plan for like what you're going to do as soon as you hit launch. So for me, I had like a video that I was going to share on Instagram, and I was like, I'll run an ad for that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that's a strategy, but that was not enough for a whole strategy for like the first week. But that was like the one thing that I knew that I could do pretty easily. And then it was a matter of just like reaching out and emailing people directly, actually like sending personal emails to people, because if you do like blind copy everyone, it's not as effective. So you can't just like blind copy everyone. You have to actually individually email people.
Gotcha.
Unless you have some kind of relationship with like a small group where you can just kind of email them. So yeah, that was really important, just like taking the time to do that, and then sending out stuff to my mailing list, and then posting on all my social media channels. So like posting on Instagram, posting in stories, posting on Twitter, and then posting on Facebook also. And I think the cool thing about Kickstarter is you get the data after, so you can see like where your funding was coming from.
Oh, nice.
So you can see like how much came from like what platforms. Some of it comes directly from Kickstarter when you can land on like their discovery page. From my experience, and then talking to other people that have done projects, it's like in the beginning you get like people that are really excited to pledge. You're like, oh yeah, finally, cool, this is awesome. So you get like a little bit then, and then that goes away after like maybe day 3.
Right.
And then it gets very dry, and you're like, okay, I have like nothing.
Crickets chirping.
Exactly. Right. And you're like, okay, you might get like $5 here or there from like random, for me it was like random print companies. They were like, hey, we see that you're, we would like to support your book because they really want me to come and print with them, so they'll like give me $5 or $15.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yes. Okay. So you get, and you also get a ton of messages from a bunch of bots or just like printers or people overseas and stuff. And then I also got a couple messages from people that were like, hey, it's like the last day. I know you're not quite at your goal, but keep your head up, it's gonna happen. I'm like, cool. It was a lot.
Oh man.
Yes. So yeah, back to the whole strategy thing. So I think that was like, you just have to be mindful that like it's going to get pretty like slow.
Yes.
And I think also just like reminding people that, hey, you're making a pledge and the money doesn't, like, you're not actually making like a charge until the project is funded at the end.
Right. And that's a unique feature of Kickstarter, the all or nothing thing, which is terrifying in itself. But
it is.
What you were saying about sort of like the excitement in the beginning and then the dry spell, and then I know you're going to talk about a push at the end.
It's a mad rush to the finish.
But that is very similar to what I see in other types of nonprofit fundraising, like events, like ticket sales. If you've ever done a fundraising event, you get like that one group of people who's excited to buy the ticket first thing, and then silence. And then like a week before the event, after you've been very stressed out, like everyone buys their ticket. And I think that's just kind of the psychology of how those things work.
Definitely.
And probably why you were saying 30 days feels like a lot, because it's 30 days of dealing with that roller coaster.
Exactly. So I feel like there's no way that I could do that for 2 months, because I mean it's so exhausting. And I think literally on like the 15th, which was halfway through, I had messaged a friend and I was like, hey, I can't do this anymore. I'm tired.
No.
She was like, hey, today is gonna be okay. Just because it's hard doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. And I was like, okay, I can keep going. And I think also she then like shared it, and so that got me a couple more pledges, and then I was like, okay, we're gonna keep going. There were lots of times where I just wanted to give up because it just felt really hard. And I think it was nice for me having like the people that are featured in the book, knowing that like some of them, in my mind, I was like, some of them are going to share it and some of them are just not, and that's fine, you know. Of course I would prefer that everyone shared it, but realistically it's just like not going to happen. But making it easy for people to share content too. So like I wrote up like a guide So it had like sample social media posts that they could just copy and paste.
Yeah.
It had graphics they could just copy and paste. It had like places where they could just like, I wrote actually an email that they could just like copy and send out to their mailing list also. And I think just being really strategic about that and using like language that would like capture people or make them excited. So like, I remember at one point I was like, hey, we're at 24% of the goal. Like, can you pledge this amount, and then you'll be like you'll help us get to 25%, or you can be like backer number like 101 or something like that.
Oh, I love that. It's
so
very
just
concrete.
Yeah, I found different ways that I could like make people get excited about it and like hopefully make them want to share it and like pledge. So I also, anytime I would get anxious before launching the project, I would just list out all the different ways that I could market it. So that helped me control my anxiety a little bit. So I'd be like, okay, I had like a whole spreadsheet of like, okay, don't forget about this Facebook group and like this membership that you have. Don't forget about like all these different places that you can post about it when it's feeling like maybe a little like during those dry spells. And I mean, it's still going to be a dry spell, but it helped me at least have a plan of like what I could do instead of getting like overwhelmed and defeated.
Okay, so you did all this planning, you've got your relationships, you've prepared text and copy and all that stuff, and then you hit the launch button. What happens next? What do you do during that, in your case, 30-day period to help make sure your campaign is a success?
There are so many different things that you can do. I think first off, one thing to be mindful of is it's literally going to be 30 days from the time that so I hit launch at 9:03 a.m. On September 1st, which meant on October 1st at 9:03 a.m. that it was over. So I just knew that like that was something to be mindful of. So like if you did it at midnight, then you wouldn't have like the extra couple hours or something.
Right. Okay. So you need to be strategic about even the minute you hit the launch button.
9:03, and that is a number that I will never forget.
It's a great number.
Exactly. So you hit launch, and then it's a matter of just like figuring out, okay, now what do I do? Like, you could just sit there, but you're also wasting time. So that's when I started my social media ads, because I just felt like just like having that was something I didn't have to think about. I had like a friend design like a little promo video. Nice. And then I just shared that and I promoted it, so that way it was just like working for me. I didn't have to do anything else. So I did that, and then I think I also just reached out to some people. I think that the first day or so, like, you want your first backers to be people that know you, because this project it has the potential to be seen by people who don't know you, and they need to have some kind of like social proof of concept.
Social proof, yes.
So you have to, like, you reach out to your friends and family and you're like, hey guys, I'm launching this thing. It would really mean a lot to me if you could support it. And it's really frustrating because a lot of people are like, oh, I'll just Venmo you your Cash App. And you're like, that doesn't help me at all. Yes, I need you to go to the link. Yes. You have to kind of like walk people through it. So I think just really like explaining like, hey, this is what's happening. If you can support me, I'll really appreciate it. If you cannot support me, please share it, because I'm sure you know someone who probably can. And just like being very specific about how people can pledge, and really just telling them, okay, you're going to go there, you'll put in your amount, you have to make an account, and sometimes that's a barrier for people. They're like, okay, I'm done. Just, you do that individual outreach for like the first couple of days. Some people will just like not respond, and that's fine. You can also individually like DM people. I felt so annoying, but I just kept doing it because I had no choice.
No, they're your friends. They love you.
It felt like I had to do it. So you do all of that, and then I would say maybe like within the last like week, things start to pick up a little bit, but even still, people are still not really, no one feels like a sense of urgency. So I would say the last like maybe 24 hours is when I got the most pledges, and you're like, why do we have to wait until the last minute?
I want to go back to one thing you said earlier that I think is a really interesting and helpful insight about having your uncle ask. It doesn't have to be your uncle, of course, but I found that in fundraising, if it's just me asking all the time, they're like, how you were saying, like, okay, Amber, we get it. You need some money for your cause, exactly. Blah, blah, blah. But if you have someone else be a champion for your cause and ask, somehow that makes it more powerful and you reach more people.
Definitely. And I mean, my uncle had asked people that I had already asked to pledge.
Right.
They didn't do it when I asked them, but when he asked, they're like, okay, yeah, let's do this.
Sometimes it just takes like several, if multiple people are asking, that triggers something in our brain like, oh, this must be really important.
Yeah, it's something I have to keep reminding myself also that people have to see things a million times before they like really understand it. I still wanted people to know that it was like a real project that did have other people involved. I did like these Instagram stories, these IG lives, they were called with Dream Chasers. And so it would be like people that are in the book, and I would try to do it with like 3 other people. So it would be like the 4 of us on Instagram Live, because Instagram is going to ping all of their audiences, be like, oh, so-and-so's going live with so-and-so. So I use that as like a marketing strategy, and also as a way to create content that was relevant to the book and the project. So then I have those videos that I can like cut up and like use for other things if I need to. So I feel like that was really helpful, just like finding other ways that you can like market your content or market your project without like just like asking people for money, or just like being like, oh, hey, I'm doing this thing. It's like telling them more about it and getting them curious about it on their own.
Yeah, and storytelling is such an important marketing strategy.
Definitely.
So, final words of wisdom. If there's one most important thing that you would tell someone who's thinking of doing crowdfunding for their nonprofit fundraising campaign or other type of fundraising campaign, what would that be?
I would say keep going. So like it's gonna get hard, and you're gonna feel like you just like, it's gonna feel useless and just like, why am I doing this? But you have to keep going because people are watching, and not just like in a vain way people are watching, but like for me, I wanted to show that like it's possible, that like you could just like, if you just try really hard and like network and try to like connect with the right people, you can do it, you know? So it was really important to me to just like showcase that on behalf of everyone that was in the book, and I wanted it to just be something that they could feel like inspired by, like, oh, well, if Danae could do it, then I could do it too, because there was nothing like special about like what I did, you know? I felt like anyone could have done it.
Well, thank you so much for your time and your insights and your wisdom today, Danae. And I'm going to leave a link to her website in the description below if you want to check out her amazing project and maybe order a book, pre-order a book. It's up to you. But check it out definitely, and go support, because showcasing people who are inspiring and making an impact is definitely near and dear to my heart too.
I love it. Yes.
I'd love to hear from you now. Have you ever done a crowdfunding campaign? What were some of the tips and strategies you learned, if so, or what would you recommend people not do if you learned that too? Or if you are thinking about starting a crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter or another platform, what other questions do you have? Maybe Danae will surprise us and show up in the comments or something. So feel free to ask those questions in the comments below, and I hope that you found this video helpful and useful. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more content all about starting a nonprofit, fundraising, social impact projects, and other stuff like that. Finally, if you are on Facebook, don't forget to check out my group, Change the World or Bust, where we have like 2,000 plus people from around the world now who all are out there making a difference in different ways and are building community together and encouraging each other along the way. Once again, I'm Amber Melanie Smith, and I hope to see you next time.